the historic confirmation of Iraq's currency revaluation for years. Whispers of a dramatic change in the Iraqi dinar's value circulated among investors, economists, and curious onlookers. Countless debates played out across online forums, financial newsletters, and private investment circles. Some dismissed the idea as nothing more than hopeful speculation, while others clung to the belief that a day would eventually arrive when Iraq would boldly reset its currency's place in the global financial system. That day has now come. On September 6, 2025, the Iraq Gazette, the country's highest authority for publishing laws, decrees, and official financial regulations, confirmed what many had long awaited. The Central Bank of Iraq has set a new exchange rate, pegging one Iraqi dinar at an astonishing $3.91 USD. This moment marks a seismic shift, not just for Iraq but for the global economy. What once was rumor is now written in black and white, preserved in the permanent records of the Iraqi state. Unlike speculation or unverified leaks, the Gazette's publication leaves no ambiguity. When a monetary policy decision is printed in the Gazette, it carries the full force of law. The revaluation of the dinar is no longer hypothetical. It is binding, official, and actionable across every financial system that interacts with Iraq's currency. Why the Iraq Gazette matters to appreciate the scale of this announcement, one must understand the authority of the Iraq Gazette. Established as the nation's official record, the Gazette serves as the definitive source of truth for Iraq's legislative and regulatory decisions. Every binding law, decree, and financial directive must pass through its pages before taking effect. This is not a symbolic gesture. International banks, investors, and governments treat Gazette publications as the final word on Iraqi legal and economic matters. If an exchange rate or monetary adjustment appears in its pages, it is not optional. It is a legally enforceable reality. That is why the Gazette's confirmation has triggered immediate reactions across the global financial community. For years, skeptics argued that stories about an Iraqi currency reset were fueled by speculation, misinformation, or conspiracy theories. Their core argument was always the same. If it were true, it would appear in the Gazette. Now that it has, that skepticism has been swept aside. From conjecture to certainty prior to September 2025, conversations around the Iraqi dinar often carried a speculative tone. Traders debated exchange rates in hushed tones, private investors circulated rumors about inside sources, and hopeful currency holders clung to unofficial reports. That atmosphere has evaporated. The revaluation is no longer a subject of debate, it is codified in law. Banks, trading platforms, and international regulators are legally required to update their systems to reflect the new rate. Speculation has transformed into certainty, and anticipation has given way to concrete reality. The symbolic power of this shift cannot be overstated. For nearly 2 decades, the dinar languished as a shadow of its former self, a reminder of political instability and economic turmoil. Now, Iraq has flipped the narrative entirely, positioning its currency as one of the strongest by exchange rate value in the world. The immediate global reaction, the announcement sent shockwaves through international financial markets. Currency trading desks from London to New York to Dubai briefly froze their dinar operations, halting trades while systems were recalibrated. Financial institutions scrambled to synchronize their internal software with the new exchange rate. Within hours, reports surfaced that banks such as HSBC and JP Morgan had circulated memos to staff, confirming the new valuation and instructing them to prepare for a surge in exchange requests. Terminals that had for years displayed the dinar at a fraction of a cent now reflected a rate of nearly $4 per unit. Governments reacted just as swiftly. The U.S. Treasury issued directives to federally regulated banks, requiring them to update currency kiosks, online platforms, and branch operations to accommodate the new rate. The instruction carried not only practical guidelines, but also strict compliance reminders regarding anti-money laundering procedures. After all, a sudden influx of high-value currency exchanges introduces risks that must be tightly controlled. On the international stage, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, released a cautiously optimistic statement. While diplomatic in tone, the message praised Iraq's disciplined approach to foreign exchange policy and acknowledged the move as a step toward greater integration in global markets. These rapid responses highlight the legitimacy of the Gazette's announcement. Global institutions are treating it not as a rumor to be debated, but as a confirmed policy change requiring immediate logistical adjustments. The road to revaluation. Years of preparation to understand how Iraq reached this point. One must examine the deliberate steps taken over the past several years. The Central Bank of Iraq did not simply wake up one morning and decide to raise the value of the dinar. This transformation has been the result of a carefully crafted, multi-year strategy aimed at stabilizing the country's financial system and building the necessary foundation for such a bold move. Strengthening foreign reserves. One of the most important prerequisites for a strong currency is the strength of a nation's foreign reserves. In Iraq's case, this meant ensuring that the central bank held sufficient reserves of US dollars, euros, gold, and other assets to support a higher exchange rate. Independent audits conducted over the past 2 years confirmed that Iraq's reserves not only met, but exceeded international benchmarks. These audits were critical in building confidence among both domestic stakeholders and foreign investors. Without proof of strong reserves, any talk of revaluation would have been dismissed as financially irresponsible. With that proof, however, Iraq signaled to the world that it had the capacity to sustain a much stronger dinar. Transitioning oil contracts. Iraq's economy is heavily reliant on oil exports, and for decades, those contracts were almost exclusively denominated in US dollars. Recognizing the limitations this created, Iraqi policymakers began gradually shifting oil settlement agreements toward the dinar. While the transition was slow and often met with resistance, it sent a powerful message. Iraq was committed to elevating its currency's role in international trade. By denominating key exports in dinars, Iraq effectively created organic demand for its currency on the global stage. Countries buying Iraqi oil had to acquire dinars, which in turn reinforced the currency's value. This strategic decision was a clear precursor to the revaluation. Building regional partnerships. Another piece of the puzzle was Iraq's diplomatic outreach. Over the past 5 years, Baghdad signed numerous memorandums of understanding with Gulf states and other trading partners. These agreements included frameworks for currency settlement, economic cooperation, and financial integration. Such partnerships were not only symbolic but practical. They ensured that once the dinar's value was adjusted, Iraq would already have mechanisms in place to facilitate regional trade using its currency. This reduced the risk of disruption and increased the likelihood of smooth adoption by neighboring economies. Modernizing the banking sector internally, Iraq invested heavily in modernizing its banking infrastructure. From digital platforms to anti-counterfeiting technologies, the central bank pushed for reforms that would make the financial system more transparent and more compliant with global standards. This modernization was crucial. A currency revaluation of this magnitude cannot succeed in a weak or outdated financial system. By upgrading its institutions, Iraq ensured it could handle the logistical challenges that would come with a new exchange rate. A currency reborn. The journey from post-war devaluation to global revaluation is nothing short of remarkable. Following the 2003 conflict, the dinar collapsed, trading at fractions of a cent against the US dollar. For years, it languished, a symbol of Iraq's struggles with war, corruption, and instability. Incremental improvements occurred between 2010 and 2022, but they were small and often overlooked. These adjustments hinted at underlying efforts by the central bank to align the dinar with stronger fundamentals, but none came close to the magnitude of September 2025's confirmed revaluation. By officially declaring a rate of $3.91 per dinar, Iraq has catapulted its currency into the ranks of the most valuable in the world. Overnight, the dinar leaped from obscurity into prominence, reshaping not only Iraq's domestic economy, but also the global financial landscape. The importance of the Gazette's publication cannot be overstated. For years, skeptics dismissed talk of a dinar revaluation as wishful thinking or outright fantasy. Today, those doubts are silenced. With the revaluation now a matter of law, speculation has ended, and a new reality has begun. The immediate reactions of banks, governments, and international institutions prove that this is not an isolated domestic change, but a globally recognized financial realignment. Iraq's deliberate preparation, strengthened reserves, oil contract transitions, regional agreements, and banking modernization laid the foundation for this transformation. The investor's perspective and the exchange process, the official confirmation of Iraq's currency revaluation, has set in motion a chain of events that touches every corner of the global financial ecosystem. While central banks, trading platforms, and governments are recalibrating their systems, a different group of stakeholders is facing its own set of challenges and opportunities: the investors and everyday holders of the Iraqi dinar. For this group, the revaluation is more than a headline. It is potentially a life-changing event. What once amounted to stacks of largely symbolic paper currency may now represent significant wealth. But opportunity does not come without complexity. Successfully navigating the exchange process requires preparation, documentation, awareness of fraud risks, and a clear understanding of both the legal and tax implications. This section will explore these dimensions in depth, offering a comprehensive guide for individuals and institutions alike as they prepare to act on the revaluation. The transformation of speculative holdings. For years, holding Iraqi dinars was viewed as a speculative gamble. Many acquired the currency through online dealers, private transactions, or small-scale investments, hoping that someday Iraq's economic recovery would trigger a sharp increase in value. Skeptics often ridiculed this strategy, pointing to the dinar's stagnant rate and lack of recognition on international exchanges. But for the believers, patience has now been rewarded. Consider the transformation. At the old rate, 1,000,000 dinars might have been worth a few $100s. At the new confirmed rate of $3.91, that same holding is suddenly worth nearly $4 million USD. This dramatic shift illustrates why the revaluation is being described as historic. It is not just a matter of abstract economics, but a tangible redistribution of wealth for those who held on to their currency. Preparing for exchange. Step-by-step guidance. While the promise of newfound wealth is exciting, the practical steps of converting dinars into usable funds are not as simple as walking into a bank with a stack of bills. Financial institutions, particularly in the United States, Europe, and the Gulf, are preparing strict protocols to handle these exchanges. Here is a detailed breakdown of what holders can expect. Step 1. Organizing your currency. Banks will require all dinar notes to be authentic, clean, and in good condition. Notes that are torn, heavily soiled, or counterfeit will be rejected. Many institutions use advanced authentication machines capable of detecting even the most sophisticated forgeries. Prudent holders should separate notes by denomination. Inspect them for damage. Store them in protective sleeves or envelopes to maintain condition. Step 2. Gathering documentation. In addition to the physical currency, banks may ask for documentation proving the purchase and legitimacy of your holdings. Receipts from licensed dealers, invoices, or even notarized records can strengthen your case. For large amounts, these documents may also serve a tax purpose, allowing individuals to establish the original purchase price and calculate capital gains. Step 3. Identification and compliance. Anti-money laundering (AML) laws require banks to verify the identity of anyone attempting a large exchange. Expect to provide government-issued photo ID, passport, driver's license, or national ID, tax identification numbers such as a social security number in the U.S., proof of residence, utility bills, lease agreements, or bank statements. In some cases, banks may require additional verification, such as income documentation, especially for exchanges exceeding certain thresholds. Step 4. Scheduling appointments. Given the scale of this revaluation, banks are unlikely to process large exchanges on a walk-in basis. Appointments will be necessary to ensure adequate staffing, security, and compliance. Holders should contact their bank's foreign exchange department in advance. Attempting to arrive unannounced with large amounts of dinar could result in delays or outright refusal. Step 5. Verification and rate presentation. Once at the bank, the dinars will undergo machine verification. This process not only authenticates the notes, but also records them in compliance logs. After verification, the bank will present the applicable exchange rate. While the Gazette confirmed $3.91, slight variations may exist between institutions due to contractual arrangements or account holder privileges. Some customers may see rates closer to $4.26, depending on their banking relationship. Step 6. Transaction options. After the rate is confirmed, individuals can choose how to receive their funds. Direct deposit into a personal or business account. Cashier's check for large transfers. Wire transfers for moving funds internationally. Instant transactions may be possible for smaller exchanges, while multi-million-dollar conversions may take several days to clear. Step 7. Documentation and compliance forms. Large exchanges may involve additional paperwork. Banks may require customers to sign non-disclosure agreements, NDA, tax reporting documents, and declarations affirming that funds are not connected to illicit activity. Step 8. Post-exchange planning. Perhaps the most overlooked step is what happens after the exchange. Sudden wealth can be overwhelming, and poor planning can lead to significant financial or tax consequences. Consulting with professional advisors, accountants, tax lawyers, and wealth managers is critical. The reality of scams and fraud. Whenever large sums of money are in play, criminals see an opportunity. The revaluation of the Iraqi dinar is no exception. Already, reports have surfaced of fraudulent brokers, impersonated bank officials, and websites promising exclusive higher rates in exchange for upfront fees. Here are common red flags. 1. Requests for upfront payments. No legitimate institution will ask you to pay money before exchanging your dinars. 2. Shipping currency by mail. Banks will not ask you to mail physical currency. Any such request is almost certainly fraudulent. 3. Email or phone solicitations. Offers of special contract rates or priority access are classic phishing attempts designed to steal personal data. 4. Unverified redemption centers. Only recognized banks or officially designated financial centers should be trusted. The golden rule is simple. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Verification through your local bank branch manager or official government communication channels is the safest path. Legal and tax implications. Exchanging dinars at the new rate is not just a financial event, it is also a legal one. Depending on your jurisdiction, the exchange may trigger capital gains taxes, income taxes, or even reporting obligations under international financial regulations. For U.S. citizens, for example, the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, will treat the increase in value as taxable income or capital gains, depending on how the currency was acquired and held. Proper documentation of purchase prices will be essential to avoid disputes. In Europe, tax laws vary by country, but the principle is the same. A sudden increase in wealth is subject to state oversight. Failure to report exchanges could result in heavy penalties. Institutions handling large exchanges are also bound by strict AML protocols. Suspicious transactions, even if innocent, may be flagged and reported to regulators. Transparency and compliance are the best defenses against such scrutiny. The broader international implications. The revaluation is not only a domestic Iraqi milestone, it carries ripple effects across the international financial system. Regional trade. Gulf states that signed agreements with Iraq will now find themselves interacting with a far stronger currency. This could alter trade balances, particularly in energy contracts. Global currency markets. With the dinar suddenly ranking among the world's most valuable currencies by exchange rate, traders will need to adjust models and forecasts. Foreign direct investment, FDI. Iraq's stronger currency makes it a more attractive destination for international investors, who may now view the country as a stable and lucrative market. Geopolitical positioning. By asserting the dinar's strength, Iraq signals its intention to play a larger role in Middle Eastern and global economic affairs. For years, dinar holders were dismissed as dreamers. Today, they are standing at the threshold of historic financial transformation. Yet this moment comes with responsibilities: preparing currency and documentation, remaining vigilant against fraud, understanding tax obligations, seeking professional financial guidance. The revaluation of the Iraqi dinar is more than a change in numbers. It is a logistical, legal, and personal turning point. The difference between success and disappointment will lie in preparation, patience, and informed decision-making. Iraq's economic future and the global impact of the dinar revaluation. The confirmation of Iraq's currency revaluation through the Iraq Gazette has transformed financial markets, energized investors, and redefined the role of the dinar in international economics. Yet the story does not end with the exchange rate itself. To understand the full impact of this historic development, one must look beyond the immediate shockwaves and consider Iraq's broader reform strategy, its regional ambitions, and its long-term trajectory. This section will explore how Iraq plans to leverage its stronger currency into economic renewal, how global players are recalibrating in response, and what this means for the future of the Middle East and international finance. Iraq's economic reform strategy, the revaluation of the dinar, is not an isolated event. It is part of a larger, carefully constructed blueprint for economic reform. Iraq has long been aware that its reliance on oil exports and its weak currency made it vulnerable to volatility, corruption, and international dependency. Over the last decade, policymakers have gradually laid the groundwork for a transformation. Diversifying beyond oil, while oil remains the backbone of Iraq's economy, officials have repeatedly emphasized the need to diversify. The new exchange rate provides both an incentive and an opportunity to accelerate investment in sectors such as agriculture. Iraq's fertile lands have the potential to feed not only the domestic population, but also export markets. Tourism and heritage. With some of the world's oldest historical sites, Iraq can attract cultural and religious tourism if security and infrastructure improve. Technology and banking services. A modern financial system and a young population position Iraq to become a hub for digital services in the region. By strengthening its currency, Iraq can more easily import technology, attract foreign capital, and stimulate domestic industries that were previously constrained. Fiscal discipline and reserve management. A higher value currency requires strong fiscal discipline. The Central Bank of Iraq has committed to maintaining robust foreign reserves, limiting inflation, and aligning with international financial reporting standards. The audits conducted in the years leading up to the revaluation were not merely symbolic. They demonstrated Iraq's commitment to transparency and accountability. Infrastructure development. Currency strength alone does not guarantee prosperity. To support growth, Iraq is investing in roads, energy grids, water systems, and digital infrastructure. A revalued dinar increases the country's purchasing power for materials and services, enabling faster progress in rebuilding war-torn regions and modernizing urban centers. Regional implications. The revaluation carries enormous consequences for Iraq's neighbors and the wider Middle East. Gulf Cooperation Council (GCC) states for Gulf states such as Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the UAE. Iraq's stronger currency alters the balance of trade. Historically, Iraq relied heavily on US dollars for its contracts, keeping the dinar in the background. Now, Gulf companies trading with Iraq must account for a high-value local currency, potentially reshaping settlement frameworks. Memorandums of understanding, signed over the past 5 years, with these states were crucial. They established legal and financial channels for conducting business in dinars, ensuring the transition is smoother. Iran and Turkey. For Iraq's northern and eastern neighbors, the revaluation presents both opportunities and challenges. Turkey, with its own currency struggles, may see Iraq as a stabilizing trading partner, particularly in energy and construction. Iran, facing sanctions and international isolation, may seek to deepen trade ties with Iraq to access stronger currency settlements indirectly. The broader Middle East. By positioning the dinar as a credible, strong currency, Iraq reclaims a central role in regional economics. For decades, instability diminished its influence. The revaluation is a signal that Iraq intends to compete not as a fragile state, but as a robust participant in Middle Eastern integration. Global geopolitical implications. The shockwaves extend far beyond Iraq's borders. United States. The U.S. has long played a decisive role in Iraq's financial system. With the revaluation, Washington faces both opportunities and responsibilities. On one hand, U.S. investors and banks stand to profit from increased Iraqi trade. On the other, regulators must ensure that the sudden wealth redistribution does not fuel illicit finance. The U.S. Treasury's swift directives, following the Gazette's publication, demonstrate Washington's determination to maintain oversight. European institutions, particularly in London, Paris, and Frankfurt, have already begun integrating the new exchange rate into their systems. For Europe, Iraq's rise as a stable financial partner provides a counterbalance to energy dependencies on Russia and volatile markets elsewhere. Asia, China, and India, both major consumers of Iraqi oil, will closely monitor the dinar's performance. China's Belt and Road Initiative has targeted Iraq for infrastructure projects, and a stronger dinar may accelerate joint ventures. India, with its energy demand, will adapt quickly to dinar-based settlements. Energy market consequences. Energy is Iraq's crown jewel, and the revaluation directly affects oil markets. By denominating oil contracts in dinars, rather than exclusively in dollars, Iraq challenges the long-standing petrodollar system. If Iraq's example encourages other producers to experiment with local currency settlements, the global oil trade could diversify beyond the US dollar. While this does not threaten the dollar's dominance overnight, it does represent a subtle shift toward multipolar financial frameworks. Long-term financial stability. Critics of currency revaluations often argue that sudden increases in value can destabilize domestic economies, leading to inflationary pressures or competitiveness issues in exports. Iraq's case is different. The strength of its reserves, the gradual preparation of its banking system, and its strategic oil-backed economy provide buffers against many risks. That said, challenges remain. Managing inflation during the transition, ensuring that sudden wealth does not exacerbate corruption, balancing imports and exports to prevent dependency on foreign goods. Iraq's success will depend on whether it can channel the benefits of a strong currency into sustainable development rather than short-term gains. Lessons for investors and policymakers. The dinar revaluation offers several lessons that extend beyond Iraq. 1. Patience in policy execution. Major financial reforms require years of preparation, not sudden announcements. Iraq's audits, partnerships, and infrastructure modernization were essential. 2. Transparency builds confidence. Without the publication in the Iraq Gazette, the revaluation would remain rumor. Legal confirmation is what compels global action. 3. Regional integration. Matters economic reforms gain momentum when supported by neighbors and trading partners. Iraq ensured this by signing MOUs and aligning with Gulf states. 4. Individual preparation is crucial. Investors who carefully documented their holdings, avoided scams, and prepared in advance will benefit most. Conclusion. A new chapter for Iraq and the global economy. The revaluation of the Iraqi dinar is not merely a domestic financial adjustment. It is a redefinition of Iraq's place in the world. From the pages of the Iraq Gazette to trading floors in New York and London, the confirmation of $3.91 per dinar has reverberated through markets and institutions. For Iraq, the opportunity is historic. To use a stronger currency as a springboard for diversification, modernization, and global influence. For investors, the moment is transformative, rewarding patience while demanding responsibility. For the world, it is a reminder that financial realignments can emerge from unexpected places, reshaping the balance of power. This is not the end of the story, but the beginning of a new chapter. The revaluation signals not only the rebirth of the Iraqi dinar, but also the emergence of Iraq as a central player in the Middle East and beyond. The world will be watching closely as Iraq seeks to turn monetary strength into sustainable prosperity.